And in this passage in Exodus, God says that any stones used to build an altar for him must be used as is. Don't cut them, don't shape them, don't chisel them in any way. Now, why is that? Because God says, if you use your tool on it, you have profaned it. And I really want to understand this, the big lesson that God is trying to teach the Israelites. It's not that God says, listen, I'm a part of a union that's fully committed to using only natural products. That's not what's going on here. There's something big he's trying to teach them. When it comes to what is right, when it comes to what is good, when it comes to what leads to life, when it comes to how we are to worship God, we are not invited into the discussion to offer our opinion. It is not God and us sitting across a table offering 50-50 input, having a negotiation. Well, Jeff, what do you think it means to live for me? Oh, I'm glad you asked, God. I've got some notes about what I think it should mean. That's not what happens in the Christian life. God says there's some things that I decide unilaterally because here's my trump card. I'm God. I'm God. I got a note. I'm God. That's why I can do this. And God says, when you try and add your opinion, all you do is profane whatever we're talking about. That's all that happens. If Israel said, you know what though, Lord? I think some nicely decorated stones, maybe just in the corners, would really beautify this altar. We can get, this sort of wilderness chic thing going on. God says, listen, all you're going to do is profane it. Why? In this case, because God wants them to understand he's looking at the heart. He's not looking at how tricked out their altar is. He's not looking at how great their works are. He's looking at their hearts. And if they got into building altars how they thought altars should be built, it would not take very long before they convinced themselves, as we would, that the key to pleasing God is building really great altars and temples. I mean, could you imagine if you believed that? You would just spend countless amounts of money on building the most elaborate structures you could all over Europe and play. I mean, I can't imagine what would happen if you believed that. So I want to suggest to you that in our context, in our day, we face a similar battle of wills because we're all faced with the temptation to say, well, you know what? Here's our cop-out. You ready for this? This is going to hurt. Brace yourself. I just believe that my relationship with God is, it's just so personal, And I don't mean just personal in the sense that it's between me and Jesus, but I mean in the sense that, what worshiping God looks like for me is personal between me and God. What living for God looks like, it's personal for me. It's personal for me. What scriptures need to be obeyed and which ones don't, that's really something personal. It's very special to me. I'm not comfortable talking about it. And God says, that's profane. That's profane. Because the truth is that if God has spoken in his word, if he's given clear revelation and instruction on how he wants us to do something, on how he wants to be worshiped, on how he wants us to relate to each other and love each other and be the church, if God has spoken on a subject in his word, then the conversation's over. There's a period at the end, not an ellipsis, not those 3 dots, because he's waiting for our input. And any attempts to amend or revise what God has said, they're just profanity. It's profanity. Because when we do that, what we're really saying is there's a higher authority now, Lord. There's a greater wisdom that can be added to the conversation. Mine. And when we do that, we're not really worshiping the Lord, are we? We're worshiping ourselves because we've elevated our desires and our opinions above the Lord's. So would you write this down? When we worship God according to our opinions and desires instead of his word, our worship becomes profane. When we worship God according to our opinions and desires instead of his word, our worship becomes profane.